Just go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, this is part 2 of Robby Arver's podcast with good old VaJahn Jackson over here. And yeah, it's a lot of a different story, I guess, from what we expected last year around August. So I'll let VaJahn ask the questions now.
Bro, I just want to say you called with the Seattle Kraken, bro. I was listening back to our fucking podcast. Oh, there we go.
Tells me not to cuss and already starts cussing, man. Brutal.
I was looking back at our podcast, bro, and you called it about Matty Benier.
Yeah.
Am I saying his name?
Yeah, Matty Beniers. Yeah. It's definitely hard. It's definitely a hard name to get. Don't worry.
You spotlighted him like a year ago, or it was probably not a year ago. It was probably like 8 months ago. But I thought that was pretty impressive, bro, because I seen that he just scored his 20th goal of the season.
Yeah, and that's hard to do in the NHL.
Bro,
and not only as a rookie,
is he technically?
he's a rookie. Yeah. No, so
how does that work? Because he
in the NHL it depends. But I think
wasn't he drafted like 3 years ago or 2 years ago?
But because he played college, he went to college. I think I'm pretty sure. I don't remember all the. Yeah, I don't remember the whole backstory with Matty Beniers, but yeah. So the whole thing is I mean he was already a top draft pick, so usually those guys are going to make an impact. And technically, since he is a rookie in the sense of he didn't play any NHL time before. I think he played maybe 9 games, and by NHL contract standards, you don't burn a year on your contract because of that. So, I mean, he's a rookie. So, for your rookie year, putting up 20 goals in
That's
general
pretty
is
good.
pretty good. I mean, that whole team's good. So,
we're gonna get into that, but we're gonna talk about that.
we'll come back to that.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Tell everybody, bro, where you've been for the last 8 months.
Damn,
What have
that's
you
a
been doing?
long, winding
That is-
story.
I'll let you,
Bro,
start from the top.
all right, starting from the top. So last year in August, when we did this pod, I told y'all I was a Niagara University commit. And yeah, that worked out pretty well until I realized I was just, that's a really, hold on. Let me get this all sorted correctly. So, I mean, I wasn't playing much, and the boys were awesome. I mean, it's pretty hard to do, and I mean, a lot of the guys understood, like, oh yeah, he's going to go home, work construction, and things like that. And I just wanted to finish out my junior hockey career, my under 21 year, or under 20 year, excuse me. And that's really what it came down to is I just wanted to finish out my U20s, and it worked out for the better in some facets. But yeah, I mean, Niagara Falls, it was awesome. All the people over there. Millie, I know you're probably watching somehow because, you know, she'd like to make fun of me. Felt like calling you out, and you and Jimmy DiMatteo. Miss you boys. Miss hearing y'all make fun of me in the locker room. So also, yeah, shout out to all the boys over there. Much love coming back from Washington. So yeah. And then long winding road. What else you want to know?
Talk about Butte hockey. Talk about your season. Let's hear what
yeah.
happened with that once you left.
Once I left Niagara. So once I left Niagara, it was just a whole other show on the front of moving, you know, cross country back to Butte, Montana. And that was my 4th year returning to Butte. And so returned there and got in. It was fun. First few games were in Minnesota, and playing in that, it's a showcase is what it's called, and that showcase is so fun because all the teams are there. You know, a bunch of scouts are there, and that's kind of where the next step of my adventure starts. I actually got talked to by a club Division I coach. That was pretty fun, and I'm committed to Waldorf University currently. I actually signed to Waldorf University currently. That is one of the best parts, I think, about coming back is I got to just come back, be me, and I mean, I was me in New York, don't get me wrong, but I mean, like, be me, be a little bit less pressure, have a little bit more fun, and be in the community a little bit more like I used to, like what I was, and really find a place to call a second home. So yeah, I mean, Butte hockey this year was we had the team, I do have to say. VaJahn can attest to this. I mean, we had the talent, we had everything there. Sometimes you don't click. That's really all that happens. I mean, it's team chemistry sometimes, and chemistry wasn't there. It happens. Life goes on, you know. But to sum it up, I mean, I finished my time out in Butte, and I miss it, but I'm going to miss it, but that's okay. I mean, I closed that chapter, called it good. So yeah.
Okay. How do you pronounce it? Waldorf?
Waldorf.
Waldorf.
Mm-hmm. You're good. You're good.
Explain that. Where is it? And what are you expecting? What are you expecting out of yourself? What do you think your role is going to be?
Whew, loaded question there. Well, not necessarily too loaded, but loaded enough. Waldorf is in the middle of Iowa, or not necessarily the middle, more of northern Iowa. It's located in Forest City, Iowa. There is 650 kids who actually go to the school. I think it was like 2,000 something. I don't remember the exact number online, but 2,000, 3,000 online. And it's a very small school. And then even the city itself is small. It's under 5,000. It's 4,400 people live in Forest City, and it's pretty fun. We're 2 hours south of Minneapolis, 2 hours north of Des Moines, and a little bit, I want to say like a half hour west of Mason City, Iowa. But it'll be fun. Now to get to the expectations of myself, that's hard to gauge right now because, I mean, going to Niagara, that was a wake-up call of, like, what I should expect. I mean, I'm going to, like, Niagara was a program that was built to win now, and, I mean, they're going to keep building on that and winning and all of that great and fantastic stuff because, I mean, Coach Sean and Coach Brain have their stuff together out there. I mean, and not just those two coaches. I mean, they have a huge coaching staff. They have a lot of support from that university. They're going to keep building, and they're going to be just one of those premier programs every kid is going to want to go to, not only because it's a good hockey team, but because it's a good place to be and good people. Where I'm going now, I mean, Waldorf, from what I can tell, it's going to be fun. I mean, it's a small city. I love small cities. I couldn't do the big city life, I'm being honest. I love my smaller cities. I mean, Butte isn't really small in comparing sizes, obviously. I mean, 35,000, I believe, is roughly what Butte has compared to 4,400. I mean, it's going to be a lot smaller, but I'm not too worried about that. That'll be fun. The coaches are very candid. I like Coach Prater and Coach Heitkamp. They're pretty cool. I mean, I get along with them right now, and that's all. I mean, get along with them, and what they're expecting is a big guy who can play big. I mean, that's literally what that means. You just play big. I mean, be a force to reckon with on the ice. That's the best way I can explain it without getting too much into detail and revealing too much.
I hear you, bro. Explain to me how a team like Wisconsin, like Christian, can compete with a team like Wisconsin in hockey, or like how come you see it like in NCAA rankings you have teams that like are not the typical teams that you see.
The premier, that premier school. So that's funny because Niagara is one of those schools. Well, this isn't supposed to be a slight anyway, but Niagara is a school not a lot of people know about. So even when I say, oh, Niagara University, and I say it's like, the best way I can explain to Niagara, anyone on the West Coast, is it is the Gonzaga of the Northeast. And even one of the office ladies I talked to, when I told her that, she kind of laughed. She goes, that's right, because they're a mid-major school as well. And so, I mean, Niagara is one of those schools you're not going to hear that name really correlated with hockey a lot. The reason why hockey is one of those weird sports in NCAA is because you only have 60 programs in NCAA D1 compared to the 163 you see with basketball, football, and all of those teams and such. But I mean, those smaller schools, when they're like smaller NCAA D1 schools, when you see that, like those, let's say Michigan Tech, I didn't know Michigan Tech really existed until I saw it on a hockey ranking, or like UMass Lowell. What other schools? I mean, there's just, you can rattle off so many. And then that's just D1. And then we go to NCAA D3. I mean, there is an NCAA Division II. There's only 10 teams in it, though, and they're all in the Northeast. They're all literally like within Connecticut, New York. So really, you go from NCAA D1, you see minimal D2 going on, and then you go right to D3. D3 is really good hockey as well. You see some guys go to the NHL from there, but you see a lot of the NCAA D1 and D3 guys go really up into that AA, AAA premier rankings when it comes to like So in baseball, you have that, I talked about last time. In baseball, you have that system of minor leagues. It's the same thing in hockey. You see a lot of the NCAA D1 guys go to that AAA, AA area, depending on what school they go to. Like, if you go to University of Minnesota, you're probably going to go to the, not necessarily the show, but you're going to go straight to like AAA and develop for a few years and maybe go to the NHL, see some time there. Then if you're at that smaller NCAA mid-major school, you're going to go to a AA organization. And then NCAA D3, if you're at the top end of that, you're going to go to AA, AAA. It's things like that. Like, it really, you don't see the whole, what is it? In baseball, you see teams go, oh, we're going to pay you to go to university. You don't really see that with hockey. What happens is typically it'll go, oh, this kid's committed here to, like, let's say committed to University of Minnesota. You see a lot of this with the Minnesota high school kids, the under 18s. They'll commit to a certain school already, and they'll get drafted in the NHL. They'll play 2-3 years in NCAA bracket, develop for a few years, and then go straight to the NHL or go to the NHL's farm team. You know, it just things like that. The reason why those smaller schools can compete with that, though, is just because you don't see a lot of big schools. Like, let's just say Texas had an NCAA D1 team. Like, let's say the whole SEC, Big 12 had that with hockey. Oh, God, if they could fund it like they funded their football teams, Jesus, the hockey landscape would be scary and different.
So Texas, they don't have the D1 program?
They have a club Division II program.
What is it?
So when it comes to, when it comes to the totem pole, NCAA D1, D2, D3, then you have club, and so club Division I is more getting to the on par. Like, there's a lot of schools at Club 1. The reason why they're not NCAA D3, there's an old NCAA D1 school that dropped to Club 1 and has some of the, like, because they cut their funding. It all comes down to funding. That's really what I've been told most of my hockey life. But NCAA, like Club Division 2, you're playing really decent hockey. Like, it's a lot of guys who are really more there for the school than they are the hockey. Eastern has Club Division 2. And you can be really good at Eastern. I mean, Eastern's a really fun school. I mean, I talk to the director every day. I love Travis. I love what Eastern has going on. I wish I could actually go play there as well. But, I mean, you can't do that. I mean, can't play at Eastern. I want to play at a higher level, and Eastern's only Division 2 right now, and I want to play more. And that's what I respect about Travis. So I told him that, and he was just like, oh, yeah, go ahead, do it. And so D2, I mean, you're traveling. Like, Eastern Washington will play Montana State, Gonzaga University, Idaho, like random universities you wouldn't think of. Like, Idaho has a team. The university, like the Vandals. Idaho State's getting a team this year. A lot of the guys from our team are actually going to Idaho State. Teams like Weber State down in Utah, Utah State, Utah Valley State, Utah. I mean, there's a lot of Utah schools that Montana State plays. Then there's Williston State College out in North Dakota. That's a 2-year school. It's an NJCAA school. They have a Club Division II team, and they're really, I mean, they have a new ice arena, not on campus, but it's a little bit off of campus. Then you have what else? Oh, U of M. U of M's huge in Montana now. They're the Grizz because it's marketable. And the other thing is with Montana State and U of M, not a lot of people know this, but you can go to their trade schools that are attached. So you don't have to go to U of M or Montana State University. You can go to, I'm going to go to Missoula College of University of Montana, and I can get a really cheap degree. You can get your business management, or you can get your welding and trades done. Or you can go to Gallatin County in Montana State. That's their sister schools. And so technically by ACHA rules, you are technically going to school there. So it's a weird get around for those. And it's actually, some schools are more like Waldorf is very well funded when it comes, we're funded like an NCAA D3 team. That's how good, I mean, it's just some schools take it more seriously than others. University of Mary is a team going up from Division II up to Division I, and they're a club, and they're really well funded. They're almost a division, like NCAA Division III, Division II team. Like, they're really well funded. It's just, do you want to follow the NCAA rule set entirely? That's where it comes into play. And like, club is more affordable for a lot of schools, like University of Wyoming. They have a Club Division 2 or 3 team, one of the two. It's more affordable. Club Division 3, you see you see half of what you see in Club Division 2. Club Division 2 is the most affordable and also what was it? Most populated when it comes to teams. I think it has like 170 colleges. I might be wrong on the exact number, obviously, but I mean, you have all of University of California's, that whole system. You have the SUNY system. That's the State University of New York's. You have most of those schools have Club Division 2 teams, Club Division 3s. It just kind of depends where you're going. And then you have that system. You have just a bunch of schools everywhere that have a Division 2, Division 3 team. Like it's a very low-key popular sport. Like University of Kentucky's Division 2, and they sell out their schools. It's not on campus, but they sell out the rink that they play at. So it's all hit or miss, and it depends on where you go, depends on the region and how marketable and how well your marketing is in that school.
When scouts are looking for their farm system, do they look at those types of schools as like a lesser competition, so the guys aren't as good, or do NHL do they still see that as good competition, so like you can still?
They see it as less. I believe they see it as lesser. I don't know the whole NHL perspective. Like it's hard to have that NHL perspective.
Could you play club and take those next steps into the farm system?
Yes. 100%. It goes all the way down to A, and you could go from club to double A or club to A, depending on what school you are, what region you go to, things like that, obviously. Like the Midwest region, like the conference I'm going into, we're adding University of Mary. That's why I mentioned University of Mary is moving up. And University of Mary was number 1 Division 2 last year. Like they were hot. They were such a good team. Like they would just blow teams out. And it's funny to see that because it's just a weird transition to see. But there's like Midwest Conference. It just depends on the conference you go into. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And then you have the Northeast Conference. You have the Eastern States Conference, the Western Conference, the Western States Conference, I believe, with like Grand Canyon University. Like there's just all these different conferences. It just depends on where you look and where you find. I mean, the best advice I ever was given was dominate and we will find you.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
that's the best advice I've ever been given.
Let's talk a little bit on the Seattle Kraken. I know they're still playing right now, but let's kind of just talk about their season. We kind of talked about it in the beginning. You foreshadowed a whole bunch of stuff that's happening right now.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because you say Matty Beniers, and I remember talking about Shane Wright being huge, and you've seen what's going on with him. It's all an attitude problem from what I hear. From what I've been reading, it's all an attitude problem. And that's funny just to see that as well play out. It's funny to see how that plays out. But when you mentioned the Kraken, halfway through our season in Butte, my coach goes, "You know what team we need to play like?" And I'm like, I kind of sit here because we're sitting at our little circle doing our little practice doing our practice plans and stuff. And he's like, "You know what we should play like? We should play like the Seattle Kraken." I kind of like laugh. I'm like listening, and he starts going into his reason. He goes, "Because they have 20 guys, or not 20. It was at the time I think they had like 13 guys who had 20 or more points, and no other team in the NHL came close to it." And he's like, they play like a true team. Like everyone fills their role and everyone pots their goals wherever they need to, and like their points and all that stuff. That's what we should play like. And it was funny to hear that coming from my coach, and I kind of chuckled at it because we're going into a playoff push, and that's just, it happened that way. And but Seattle's a team. Then it's funny, people weren't really expecting much this year. They knew last year it was like one of that weird, they weren't sure what to expect because Vegas was such a weird experiment that worked out so well. Like no one expected Vegas to make the run they did, and they did. It was one of those things where you're like, whoa. And then so with Seattle, and they took the different approach. They took younger guys so they could build on the future. Well, it kind of came quicker than expected. Matty Beniers came along. I mean, Shane Wright is Shane Wright. That whole situation will get resolved how it does. But they have a team. They don't just have a great line here, great 3 guys here, a great D pairing or something like that. I mean, they're all, everything from the top down is solid. You're going to get hit with the same 4 lines. They all have the same skill. I mean, they play their roles, but they have the same skill set. They can all play it. They can all plug and play everywhere they need to. That's really what it comes down to, and that's why Seattle is so good and versatile. At least the Kraken are.
Is Matty like? Is he for real, or is he just like? Is it like nobody knows how he plays yet, so he can do what he's doing right now?
Hockey is a very different sport than football, because that seems like more of a football question. Because it's like Johnny Manziel or Joe Burrow is a great example. It's like everyone started to figure out how the Cincinnati Bengals were going to play. And look what happened to them. They had a great year, don't get me wrong, but they just didn't make the Super Bowl like they did. It's because they figured it out and didn't adjust. Hockey's such a different sport because Sidney Crosby's been dominating for 18 years. Did you, like, he had his 18-year-old season where he had like 30, I don't remember the exact stat. And then he's 36. He's played for 18 years and he's dominated all 18 years. Yes, he's had his concussions. Yes, he has his injuries. Every year that he's been, like, every time he's stepped on that ice, he's going to dominate. You could throw the same, like, it's not, you're throwing the same thing out there, but you can throw the same guy out there. Like, Connor McDavid has been playing for what? He has been playing for about 7 years now, I think, somewhere around there, because he's drafted in 2015. So, yeah, 8 years now, and he has dominated as well. It's like, it's all about how you adjust your game to how it's changing. And right now, I mean, Matty Beniers is a skill guy and plays very well. So I think it more depends on if he's going to go through a sophomore slump. If you have a great freshman year, sometimes you go through a sophomore slump. Like, look at Austin Matthews. It wasn't necessarily a slump. He just didn't reach the goal that he wanted to, or not the goal that he wanted to, but the media was pinning on him. But, I mean, look at him now. He scored 60 last year. The guy is great. Like, he's a great hockey player. So it's really all about how that development staff works. And it's all about how that coach wants him to play. I mean, it's not all about it. I mean, obviously it's a 50-50 thing, but I'm just saying, like, it really comes down to the variables are really how the coaching staff develops them and, like, helps them along and how committed he is. And, I mean, obviously at the NHL, he's probably really committed. So he's going to do well. I'm not too worried about Matty Beniers. I think he'll be a consistent fixture for the next few years.
I think about that with, like, I was thinking about, like, Julio Rodriguez and, like,
J-Rod.
Yeah,
our
bro,
boy.
Like, I just wonder if it's, like, I'm always very concerned, bro. Like, I'm always a person, bro. I always say, 1 time's a fluke, 2 times is for real. Like, anybody could do something 1 time, do it twice.
And you do see that with hockey. Don't get me wrong. There's no one's gonna know this name, but there's this player who played for New Jersey, had a great year. His name's David Clarkson, and then ended up going to Toronto for buku bucks. And this was when the salary cap was really low, so, like, teams really had to figure out how to use the salary cap. And it was such a bad contract because it was a 1-year wonder. Had 20 goals one season, and the next just drops off to, like, 8. So we have that. Don't get me wrong. Every sport has that. It's just in hockey, it's a lot different. You have different variables. There's so many differing factors because the game is changing on it seems like a daily basis almost. So, and some of that old school grit stuff is coming back as well. You're noticing, so Boston's the most dominant team in my opinion right now. The Boston Bruins are one of the most dominant teams you'll ever see, like, coming from the NHL, because they have 50 wins in 60 games, 70 games. I mean, they're coming down to the home stretch these last 10, 15 games, and they could coast and make the playoffs pretty easily and be a number 1 seed. And they will punch you in the mouth. They will, if any of you have ever watched Shorzy, they will run them up and fill you in. So that's one of those things that it really comes down to the team and the coaching staff. And so, yeah, I mean, the hitting aspect of the hockey is definitely coming back, but it's not in your face like it was back in the 2000s, where you would see a blindside hit at the middle of the ice, like open ice hit that the guy jumped into the other guy's head. Like, that's what used to happen, and now you don't see any of that. You see a lot more not necessarily behind the play, but more the physicality is a little bit more low key. but that speed game is just going to kill you as well. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of grit. There's a lot of it. Now it's becoming a game where it's like you have to have everything and more. So there's that.
Okay. One last thing real quick. We'll keep it super short. Let's talk about the Chiefs. They had, I think I read the worst season ever in Chiefs history.
I'm not going to quote that one, but
it was in the spokesman review.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. Went to one of their last game of the season, and those are usually the fun ones. And to play in that league, you have to be good. Just flat out. Like, I mean, you have friends who played for the Chiefs. Like, they could attest to you. You have to be flat out good to play in that league anyway. Anyway, you cut it. They're a young team. When you're a young hockey team, in junior hockey especially, at that level, sometimes the poise and sometimes that discipline that an older team would have really shows. And it happens, and I mean, it might just be an off year. It might just be a down year. I mean, I had a down year, and I'm 21. Like, same thing. It could just be a down year. And the other thing is with that league as well, you don't see a lot of 20-year-olds on the teams anymore because they have a rule. You can only have 3.
Yeah.
You can only have, it's either 3 or 4. And so you don't see a lot of 20-year-olds because what would happen back when there was no cap on that, you would see one team load up with every good 20-year-old in that division. You would see them load up and go and make a run. So there's that. But, I mean, that just means at 19, that's going to be a huge difference. That's going to be your year that it's like, if that's your do or die year. So a lot of these kids that they have when they're 19, that's their do or die year. Like, you gotta show it. And so I think next year they will take a step forward, but how big of a step? I couldn't tell you that. That's in the coaching staff. That's in that locker room. Maybe something was off in that locker room. There's always something there. And so, like, something that might not be clicking right. And that's okay. Like, hey, you can have a down year. You can have a bad year. So, I mean, it happened. So, yeah, do you have the quote pulled up?
Yeah, I just want to, because people will sometimes be
yeah, we don't want
me on stuff.
Yeah.
When I misquote stuff, Kevin Dudley from the Spokesman Review says the worst season in franchise history came to an end on Saturday night for the Spokane Chiefs, and it took an overtime and a
shootout to get there. Yeah. And you know what? Yeah. And that game, you could just, like, the pace wasn't there, and it happens. Sometimes the boys are just tired. They were in Kennewick the night before. Yeah. That bus ride might have killed them too. So
playing them too.
You're playing. I was about to say, yeah, you're playing a team full of some NHL guys, and it's It really sometimes it just comes down to the human factor. Everyone forgets about the human factor of everything now, or not everything, but of sports. There we go. Let me get my words straight. Sorry. The human factor of sports. Sometimes the stats, when you look on the sheet, you're like, that's great. What's the eye test? And the eye test doesn't look right. You're like, that's not going to stay there for as long as you would think. So, I mean, what happened with one of my buddies, Bradshaw. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I'm saying on the eye test, he looked great. On the paper test for the first 2 years, he wasn't as good as he could have been. And then 2 years after, there you go. Picks it up, and he's scoring 34, 35 goals a season. It's just, it really comes down to sometimes you look at the paper and look at the eye, you're like, these aren't matching up right. Like, something isn't clicking. What's wrong? And that's when a coach comes in and figures it out. Typically, is what I should say. I shouldn't be like, oh, that's, yeah. It can sometimes come down to the coach really being a huge factor.
I agree. I was telling a girl this a couple days ago. I think sometimes, like, even I forget, like, fantasy. We all play fantasy. I'm in fantasy. I think we forget that, like, in the Madden ratings, they're
a stud.
89,
yeah.
Every fucking game because there is it's a video game.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta, like, week 14, week 15, week 16. When you're talking baseball, when you play so many games, like you're
fatigued.
75. You're a 75 some nights.
You're
like,
fatigued.
You're like, I think people forget that, like, or even like college athletes. Like, a lot of these guys, they have girlfriends, they have brands, they have they have so many like.
The mindset isn't there. Like, don't get me. That was a huge thing that played with me this year. This year was when I say it was an off year, it was an off year from the start. I get tonight. Like, it was just as soon as I got there, got tonight. It was great. Don't get me wrong. Like, I had my good experiences. It was good. I'm just saying, like, myself, like the inner self was not good, and I didn't. It took me some time to figure that out. And once I finally got got back to Butte and settled in, and even when I got back to Butte, it got better, yeah, but then it kicks up through through February, and finally, like a month ago, I finally cleared up, and it was a week until the season was done, like the regular season. And so, I mean, sometimes it just takes a while to get your mental right, and it really comes down to mental. Like, I don't know the exact quote. It's like 90% physical or not 90% physical, 90% mental and 10% physical at certain levels. So it's like literally that's what it comes down to. It's like, how good is your mental right now?
Exactly.
And it could just change everything. Like, I was playing like maybe like if you're putting in overalls, like I was playing like a 10 overall player in a league that you see a lot of 35 overalls if we're talking NHL. Okay. So yeah.
Okay, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
All right, we'll kind of get off the sports because
no worries.
The whole time on there.
I could talk all day, man.
We could go. Get into like what you want to do for your degree and like where you see yourself like.
So currently, right now, I'm working construction. I love it every second, just working with my hands and building a huge building. We're doing a garage right now off of Lake Coeur d'Alene, so it's beautiful to look at, like, because it's like right behind you. You're like, man, there's the lake. Like, I wish I could jump in it right now because you're just that hot. You're working that hard. But like, I mean, I'm getting a business administration, like management and administration degree at Waldorf, and I'm excited for it because it's different from marketing, and I'll learn marketing and whatever. I mean, that I shouldn't have chose marketing as my major. I just kind of was like, oh, like pick a random one out of a hat and see what happens. I should have gone maybe as an undecided to Niagara, but I'm looking to use my business management degree and administration in construction. Like, that's the hope. Own a construction construction company when I get done, or hopefully I'm playing hockey and then owning a construction company after that. So I'll play that by ear, but I mean, that's really what I was looking at. I mean, business is good everywhere. So having that degree is great because you can go anywhere and everywhere with it. So
in your travels the last year, where has been your favorite place? I mean, I know you like Butte is like.
That's not. I can't consider that a travel anymore. That's second home. Don't get me wrong. Niagara Falls, Seven Wonders of the World. Don't get me wrong. Great place. That is not one of my top. I don't know why. It never clicked with me, and it wasn't really. Niagara Falls on the Ontario side was pretty cool. That's like Little Vegas. If you ever want to go to Little Vegas, go to Niagara Falls, Ontario. One of the coolest places there. That's hard. Elmira, New York was pretty cool. It's the best way I can explain it. It's like an East Coast Bozeman. Elmira, New York is like an East Coast Bozeman. And like, because you've lived in Bozeman, but you know how the Bridger Bowl's right there, and then you have this. That's what it's like in Elmira. We were there for a weekend for a showcase there with Niagara, and that was pretty cool. But that's a great question. I think in the last year, traveling all the way around, Chicago was pretty cool too, but it's Cody, Wyoming. I've been there a lot. Like, don't get me wrong. We would travel consistently there with the team, but that's always one of my favorite spots to go to when I'm playing back in Butte. It's one of my favorite spots because you're on the east gate of Yellowstone. So you're going to, like, if you were literally to drive like 10 minutes west, you're in Yellowstone National Park. But it's a great little town. It's awesome. I love Cody. That's probably my favorite place that I've actually traveled to this year. Yeah, I mean, that it's still connected to hockey, but yeah, I would say Cody, Wyoming.
Okay. What about places to eat?
Oh,
Give me a place that like maybe we don't know about.
Oh Lord.
From like Minnesota or something.
See, so Niagara had this little taco stand. It reminded me of Taco Time, but it's way different, obviously. It's called Mighty Taco. That was pretty good. When you talk about food, I always think of Austin, Texas. So my father lives down in Austin, Texas. So we get to go out, and when I'm there, we go out and just eat. And let me tell you, their Tex-Mex is just off the hook. So good. I can name off like 4 restaurants. There's Whataburger. So this is all in Texas. Whataburger, Chewy's, Freebirds, and Andy's, and that's a custard joint. But they're all just.
Whataburger is fire.
Whataburger is fire,
Whataburger.
man. Yeah, I call it. That's what I say. I don't know.
I don't know what.
He's a Texan native.
Texas. Okay. Will over here. What is it?
Whataburger.
Whataburger certified, bro.
Is it
But-
Whataburger?
Whataburger. Okay.
But a lot of people just say Waterburger.
Yeah.
Okay. Will's the certified.
Will's a certified Texan, so we'll go off of his word here.
I'm gonna believe it.
Yeah, that's facts.
Andy's is good too.
Andy's is. You've had Andy's. I forgot. Yeah, Andy's is. So it's frozen custard. Oh my God! You can get chocolate with like brownie bites in it. That's my go-to. So good, so good, bro, so good. But yeah.
Okay, I haven't been there. What was the place you put me on to when I was in Wyoming? What was the It's blue. It's blue.
It's blue.
You told me to go there.
Wyoming. What? You gotta tell. You gotta jog my memory more. What part of Wyoming were you in?
I don't really remember.
Bro.
It was super smacking, bro. Like I got a shake from there, bro. And it was really good, bro.
Oh, that kind of helps. Shake, blue building.
I don't remember what the name is.
Bro, where were you in Wyoming? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, so I was coming back from Minnesota. So however we would get back from Minnesota.
You went through Wyoming to get to Minnesota?
Maybe not Wyoming. So maybe it was. Oh no, I'm thinking.
Culver's in Minnesota,
yeah.
Dude.
No,
that
it was in North Dakota. Though.
You were in Nodak? Oh my God, Culver's is so gas.
Yes, I don't know why.
If you're on the northern part of the states, Culver's, it's Midwest, and that's funny you mentioned that because I stopped in Wisconsin on my way back from Niagara. I was coming up and it's like 10:30 at night, and I'm like, I am starving, and I'm like, what's in Wisconsin? Oh, Culver's. I haven't had that in forever, so I stopped and grabbed it.
Well, it's not like
it's not cheap, but
it's not like
it's on the lower end. Like when it comes to that, like it's great food. It's just on the lower end of the price spectrum, thank God. And it has custard and stuff too. Oh my God, yeah, Culver's.
Yeah, bro, that was.
Oh.
So when we go back, like.
Yes.
I'm definitely.
Oh, I might get a little bit fatter in Iowa. That's bad.
Bro,
bad news.
Iowa and Spokane has nothing though. That's the problem.
No, Spokane has dicks and zips. I did miss zips. What?
There's a place in Montana. It's called like Freddy's or something like that. They have burgers.
Freddy's. Where at? Is it up in Kalispell? Because I don't know anything in Kalispell or Missoula the last few years.
It was a little bit out of Butte.
Freddy's out of Butte.
They have like burgers and they have like custard.
It might be out of Butte. Which way? North or south? Do you know? Damn. That's funny that you say. Well, and if we're gonna talk about Butte food, that's a funny topic because I only go to 3. There's only 3 spots in Butte I go to, and those were like my spots. Like if I didn't go to, the M&M is a different spot that I would go to for other stuff. But I mean, you have Metals, Sparky's, and Hanging Five. So I have my breakfast. So Hanging Five is my breakfast. Sparky's would be my lunch, and then Metals would be my dinner place. Or you could flip Sparky's and Metals, honestly. They're both really good. But I mean, for dates, I'd go to Sparky's a lot because it's cheap bar food. It's pretty good. Pretty good place to be. But yeah. That's the food topic right there, bro.
I'm gonna have to put that on the list, bro. I'm always looking because when I go out, bro, I'm always like, I don't know where to go.
Mm-hmm.
Is the problem? Like, there's all these new places.
Dude,
and I'm like, I don't want to go to
yeah.
places and have it be shitty. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I get you.
Let's talk a little bit. Give us a story of this past hockey season that I don't know, maybe not so much this is just you just brings
That's tough. Because
Is it
there's a
like
lot.
bus or
There's a
something?
lot.
Like something that's behind the scenes.
Oh, behind the scenes. Oh, I can't tell you any of the stories I got off this bus trip, but we had a bus trip. This was coming back from Elmira. This is like one of the only bus trips I actually got to go on in New York because because in Niagara, a 30-minute drive is literally like 2 miles because of how like much traffic there is sometimes. And so we would drive pretty much to most of our away games because most of them were within an hour. And the rule would be like, oh, if you're driving and whatever and it's within an hour, a certain distance, you would drive yourself and we wouldn't take a bus because it would be cheaper. Well, the one time I actually got to take a bus this season, we went to Elmira. This was our Elmira trip. We're coming back and, we're a college bus, there's some things going on. And so some of the guys were a little bit looser than usual and it's pretty funny. You just started asking coach questions and he started rolling. When you get the coach rolling, it was pretty funny. And because we only had 2 of the 5 coaches on the bus with us. So it was just, they got rolling and it was so fun. I mean, that was a great trip in general. Me and one kid, the kid I was staying with, my roommate, Matt Shoddy. Man, I miss that kid. Shout out to Shoddy. So me and Shoddy were rooming in Elmira and he brought his PS5. Oh, and me and him were scratched that weekend other than he dressed 2 games. Or no, he dressed 1 game because one of the defensemen got injured. Had food poisoning, excuse me. That's another funny story. But me and Shoddy and Elmira were in the room and it was our second night there. We were going to get up and go on the bus for 5 hours or 3 hours back, whatever the bus trip was from Elmira. Shoddy is like, you want to play FIFA? I'm like, all right. We stayed up and played until 4 a.m. on FIFA that night. And we were screaming at each other. We were like, you suck. No, you. Da-da-da. And then we start looking at our Snapchat stories and we just start seeing one of the boys caught food poisoning. Sorry, Jimmy, I got to sell you out here because it was pretty funny. Jimmy he's a younger kid and he gets food poisoning and all the vets are kind of like, Jimmy has food poisoning and who gave him the Taco Bell? Just everyone, us being degenerates, us 20-year-olds being stupid. And
Good back and forth.
Yeah, good banter. And I think the next day he didn't even come out of the room until like 7 because we had a game at noon because of the way that the showcase lined up. So we have a game at noon. He doesn't come out of the room until like 7 p.m. He was done. I feel bad for the kid. But, I mean, yeah, there was some good stories to come out of that too that, kind of can't tell on camera.
Yeah, that's probably Where have you seen the most growth in your life?
Oh, that's a great most growth because of the 4 years I've been there is Butte. But I think a lot of people would like to debate that I saw the most growth from coming home from Niagara. Or not coming home, but going to Niagara, being there, experiencing what it was like to be isolated and, finding a piece of myself in a way there. I mean, it's emotionally, it was taxing. There was a lot of days where I would wake up and I'm like, what am I doing? Like you have those questionable moments of like, is this really what you want to do? And then I was in a bad spot for a good chunk of time this year, just with family and things going on, and it was just a lot of stress. And so what ended up happening is before I moved to Niagara, literally 2 weeks before I leave, my aunt, who was kind of our rock of our family, passes away from rhabdomyosarcoma, which is cancer of the abdomen, I believe. And usually kids get it really early in their life, and you can usually get it just fine. And, like something that usually happens very early in life, not in 60. And when a 60-year-old catches it, it's a lot harder to battle. And it was terminal. So she passes, and so 2 weeks later, I'm on the road. I'm packed up going. Like, there's no stopping this. We're already here. You're at the wall. You're going. So I went over, and I, had my place to grieve and all that, and did my thing, and went to Niagara, figured it out, and, worked hard. And I started to figure out some things. And I know this might be a weird way of saying, like, I grew a lot, but when I hit the gym in Niagara, my mindset changed. It was like, why am I, like, instead of hitting it for the hockey, how are you going to keep this sustainable for after hockey when that comes up? And so my mindset changed of like, oh, I'm just going for me. Like, the hockey team doesn't care. Like, I mean, they do, but I mean, like, they don't. I'm not telling them a lot. They don't care. Could care less. Like, I was just hitting the gym. I was doing me. Like, I was just hitting it. All I was doing, I was just staying in my little bubble and being me. And that might have cost my social life a little bit, but I'm fine with costing my social life to increase myself when I need, because this is the first time I've actually been able to really like think, oh, how am I going to keep myself in this happy? Like, I don't have to think for anyone else really. I just have myself right now. And so that came down to, I mean, that's where I got most of my growth, was in that little gym, that little area. I knew for an hour and a half to 2 hours a night, it was just me doing it. And that's all I focused on, was like, okay, get through the day, do this 2 hours. And so most of my growth came from just doing that and seeing results, like looking in the mirror. Like, I'd wake up in the morning and go look in the mirror and I'm like, whoa, like that's different. That's developing here. Like, I'd look in the mirror. I wouldn't look at the scale, because most of my life I would look at the scale and be like, that's the determinant of my results. And I got out of that mindset of like, that's my determinant. No, the determinant is how you feel, how you feel and how you look. I mean, I go based off of looks. I know that's kind of shallow, but like, I feel great. And like right now I'm 2 weeks off doing anything, and I'm like, oh my God, like I need to get back on it already. I'm like, ew, this sucks. Like, this is like, I'm not seeing what I like. And I like the gym is this weird little, like, the best way I could put it is like a temple. It's like it's an iron temple really. And that's what I love. So the gym was a huge factor, as well as some of that social aspects of things. But yeah, the most growth would definitely, I would say, Niagara. I mean, I saw a lot there, and then I got back to Montana, and I had a lot of other anxiety build up because of being in Montana for reasons, and girls may be a part of that reason. And then you talk to one of them and you kind of figure it out and finally get your relief. So I'm at peace with a lot of things now, that's for sure. A lot different, not as skittish as what I was when I was going in August. So yeah.
Okay. What has been your greatest accomplishment? Let's go within the last 3 months.
Last 3 months?
Yeah. What do you think? You can give me two if you got it.
I don't feel like I have a lot, because it's not that I haven't accomplished a lot. It's more of I haven't focused on accomplishing stuff. I'm more like accomplishing stuff in the sense of like a physical goal. I would say I was committed to coaching. I think my greatest accomplishment comes from going every day. So I was coaching high school and 10U in Butte, and the 10U team, the 10U bracket, would practice together and would practice a lot on one night or 2 or 3 nights a week. So I'd always go to those. And my little host sister played on that team, so I mean, it gave me another reason to go. And I would have gone either way. Don't get me wrong. I would have gone every way. I mean, those kids are great. I think the greatest accomplishment is watching them go win a state championship. Now, I didn't get to watch them, but I mean, like, just all these little kids coming together and playing as a team and winning. And one team won, and I think the other one placed second. So it was great seeing that. I think that's my greatest accomplishment. It was great being a part of the coaching staff, because those coaches are awesome, and I love every one of them. Yeah, it was a bittersweet. Butte was definitely a bittersweet goodbye. But yeah, that was the Butte 10U Squirts winning state this year. That was a good accomplishment. I know it's not mine to be proud of, but yeah.
I hear you on that.
Yeah.
We'll go a couple less maybe like serious questions.
Okay.
What are some red flags like when you're in like females?
Females?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Like when you meet somebody, what is a red flag to you? She does what?
That is so hard to like pinpoint, because I'm so picky when it comes to each person. But like, Sometimes it comes down to the way that, like, response, not only time, but just the way you respond and what kind of attitude I'm getting from it. That is for sure one of my top things. I mean, just being an ass of a person as well, I think is another thing. But yeah, I mean, female, it's a very touchy subject because, like, each one is different. Like, you can vibe with each person if you just figure it out. But yeah, response times and how they respond, I guess, with attitude and such, and what they are doing in their life and what they're driving with.
Bro, I think attitude is like probably like the most.
Dude, it determines so much.
Yeah.
Like, I'm realizing that because I had such a bad attitude. Like, this is the first time I could actually say I had a very bad mindset and very bad attitude about some things, and it determines so much of what's going on around you, and so much of what is going to happen and how you view it. And now that I'm out of it, I'm realizing, like, damn, dude, you really messed that one up.
Okay,
so
you just were kind of, what is important to you in a relationship?
Well, I mean, I guess it's the same answer.
What would you need?
What do I need out of someone?
Yeah, what do you need?
That's hard to say because I'm so into, like, I like to be independent now, and I've, year out of being in a serious relationship. I mean, it's just chemistry. It comes down to how me and that person interact on a daily basis, and if I actually can emotionally attach myself to you, because it's hard to do now, for me at least. It's hard to be very emotionally attached to someone, especially after last year and things like that. So, and I mean, with the last month, I finally, like, feeling the way I've felt this last month, it's hard for me to be attached to someone. And I've just kind of been like, but definitely chemistry. Chemistry is one of those things. Like, it has to be there, or else, yeah, might not be too good of a guy right here. I mean, I'm a good guy, but I mean, he's not too good of a relationship. There we go. Yeah. Not too good of a relationship. There we go. That's what I was looking for.
When you are, like, friendships, or what values are important to you?
Family. I wouldn't say faith. I mean, not because I'm not faithful in the way of, like, I don't go to church every Sunday, but, like, faith and, like, just being grounded, being down to earth, and I would say kindness. It's weird because it's like kindness is one of those things that's just, like, not that I never valued kindness, but I mean, like, kindness has become a little bit more on my radar about things. It's like, how kind are you and how kind am I to you? Like, how am I feeling, like, being kind to you and things like that. But yeah, it's weird how complicated those things are, and what I'm noticing, it's really cool. I've actually gained some great friendships out of New York. Not to mention the family you gain from playing hockey over there. I mean, there was a kid I was best friends with, Bennett, and I miss Bennett a lot. Bennett was awesome.
It's like a different friendship than like a regular friendship. I know, like,
yeah, where you're just kind of like, if I'm deep, like, I got back here and my boys here, Austin, Nick, and I mean, like, you and Will. I mean, like, just those relationships and how I'm different. Like, not saying like I'm a different person, but I mean, like, I'm different. I act different around you guys than I do with Austin and Nick because I've known them since I was this guy. I mean, like, Austin and Nick are like the boys. They know everything that's gone on in my life, every little detail, almost. Damn near almost every little detail other than some things. But yeah, I mean, they're my boys. And then, I mean, I have you guys who are my boys as well. It's just like, those were the boys from day one, and you guys are still day one guys, but not like day one like they are. So, I mean, I still got you, I got them. It's just, they've seen it. They've been, so like stories I tell you now, I mean, they were there for some, yeah, it's like some of them they were there and they were a part of type thing. So, yeah. It's interesting to say that, like, with relationships, yeah, everything's different like that.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
There's different relationships for different, like, and not that I think that, like I always, like, when I respond to people, because, like, sometimes I'll be like big dog or like something like that. Like, I hope people know that it's not like I'm not just like saying, or if I tell you I appreciate that, I'm not just saying it to, like, I really do appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's
like, yeah, it's different when you value people like
Most
that.
definitely.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's nice.
Most definitely. All right, how do you reset your mental?
I used to be able to just shower and get everything out, like take a really long, nice hot shower. That doesn't work anymore. Honestly, it's more confronting problems now. Like the problem I had is, it wasn't even a problem. It was more of this person, it's like you were holding on to something and you couldn't let go. And I finally figured out how to let go. And sometimes it's confronting that person or that thing and saying, hey, this needs to happen this way. We need to be these type of people to each other for this to work. Or not this to work, or like for me to be okay with this and work this way. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just not BSing each other, really. It's just being straight up and confronting the issues head on.
What is your definition of success? Do you remember what you said last time?
Not necessarily. Maybe along the lines of what I'm about to say now. It's definitely achieving the goal you set for yourself.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. I think that's what it was, but I mean,
it was something like in that. I don't remember the specific words. I can pull transcript of it.
Right, and it's one of those things where it's like it's okay coming to terms with not accomplishing certain goals is okay, but you have to see that main goal, look at it, keep it, and keep going with it until you fail or succeed. It's okay to fail. It's just how you get back up is what's going to matter. I mean, that's what I've been preaching my whole life. It's how you get back up, not how you get there. You'll get there if you get back up. As long as you do it again and try it again, you'll keep getting there. And so that's where I hope to stay on and hope to be on that good path.
Bro, do you have any more of the bracelets?
Which
Remember
ones?
the blue bracelets? Bro?
Yes, I do.
Bro,
The humble and hungry.
Yes.
Yes, bro.
Every time I shower, bro, it just fucking wears down. And so
Yeah.
it just finally, like,
Yeah.
yes, bro.
I will get you some more. Yes, humble and hungry. That's what we got to keep it. We got to keep it there.
Always, bro.
Yeah, that's a great quote.
Bro, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for coming to sit down. Bro, you're the first person to
Return.
Sit down. Yeah, bro.
I love doing this. I'll come
It's
back.
how it should be.
Dude, I know. I love this. It's just a me BSing with him conversation for the most part, and him digging at certain things.
Shout out to Will as well.
Will was in the corner the whole time. My dog was just, I was about to say, my boy was quiet. It was, and added to it.
Like texting your girl, like,
Yeah, for real.
no biggie, like,
Regulators are going to be mounted up here soon. Look out. So, yeah.
Bro, I appreciate both of them. I appreciate Robby. I appreciate Will.
Of course.
Thank you guys. Appreciate your guys' friendship.
Oh, yeah, of course. I appreciate yours.
Yeah.
Take it easy, fellas. I mean,
Sir.
coming from big old Bob over here. Yeah,
Big
take it
Bob.
easy. And yeah, take it easy. Don't do anything I would do, man.